In this movie, we're going to format the body copy, which is the poem itself. And along the way, I'll show you how to create a hanging indent in Illustrator, and I'll also show you how to work with paragraph spacing. I've saved my changes as optically current headline.ai. And I'm going to make some adjustments here to my text layer inside the Layers panel, just a little bit of organizational work. Basically, the text is kind of upside down. So the first line is, "I once knew a lovely Israeli," and that's actually the bottom column of type. So I'm going to drag it up. And then the rest is, this item is actually the last column, so I'll move it down. So we've got the story in order. As I say, just a little bit of housekeeping there. Now I'm going to Shift-Tab away my panels and press Control-Alt-0 or Command-Option-0 on the Mac to zoom out so that I can see all three of the artboards. And I'll double-click anywhere inside the poem with my black arrow tool to switch to the Type tool and set the blinking insertion marker. And then I'll press Control-A or Command-A on the Mac to select all the type inside the story. And a story, by the way, is the common name for a bunch of threaded text blocks. So all the text in the poem is now selected. So I'll go up to the word character here in the control panel and click on it. And that goes ahead and highlights the font immediately. I'll type in Adobe C in order to switch the font to Adobe Caslon Pro. Then I'll tab forward a couple of times because the font style of regular is just fine. That highlights the type size value, which I'll change to 29 points. And then I'll press the tab key and override the leading value by entering 40. And then I'll go ahead and press tab again in order to apply that change. All right, so far so good. I'll go ahead and press the escape key in order to hide that panel. Now, the problem we have at this point, if I go ahead and click in the text so that we can better see it here, you can see that some of the lyrics don't fit on a single line of type. A great example is "My chance came a week from next Sunday," and Sunday is drifting off to a second line. What I'd like to do is have the second line indent, which is what's known as a hanging indent. And so I'll go ahead and press Control-A or Command-A on the Mac again so that I get all the text, because I might as well apply these changes to all of the text in the poem, just in case I'm not seeing all the lines that require hanging indents. And then I'll click on Paragraph, because this is a paragraph level formatting attribute. And notice these indent values. We have left indent and we have right indent. I think those are pretty self-evident how they work. They're going to indent the left sides and the right sides of each and every paragraph. And each line is its own paragraph, incidentally. And then we've got this one that's called first line left indent, which affects the first line in the paragraph independently of the other lines. Here's how you create a hanging indent. You change the first value, the left indent value, to whatever. In my case, I'm going to change that value to 36 points. And then you tab forward by pressing the tab key a couple of times until you get to the first line left indent value. And notice, by the way, all lines of type right now are indented inward inside of their text frames. To take the first lines back out, you enter that same value, 36 points, that we entered as a left indent value, but you change it from positive to negative, and then press the tab key, and that goes ahead and unindents the first lines and leaves the second lines indented. So we have supple and Sunday remaining indented because they are the second lines of their respective paragraphs. All right, now I want to distinguish the paragraphs from each other a little bit. So we have a little bit of extra room between supple in the next line and Sunday and its next line. So I'll change this value, the space before paragraph value, to 4 points and then press the tab key. And that gives us a little bit of extra spacing, which is going to make this text a lot more readable. The poem is organized into 5-line stanzas because, after all, it's a limerick. That's the way limericks work. And so notice this line right here, "But she had a boyfriend from Sweden." That's the beginning of the second stanza. So it needs some additional paragraph spacing. So I'll just go ahead and click on that line. You don't need to select the entire line, because anytime you are applying a paragraph level formatting attribute, it affects the entire paragraph no matter what. Then I'll click on the word paragraph up here in the control panel. I'll click on the space before paragraph icon in order to highlight that value, 4 point, and I'll change it to 16 point. And then press the tab key. And you can see that we get some additional paragraph spacing before the first line of that second stanza. Now, that happens to knock the last line of the stanza to the next page. We'll worry about that later. But problem is we've got a bunch of first lines of stanzas. Together they make quite a couple. "My chance came a week from next Sunday," and so forth. It's kind of painful to have to apply this formatting attribute, even though it's a small change, to each and every one of these lines, which is why we're going to automate the formatting of those lines using paragraph styles in the very next movie.